Hey there guys, it's Chris here with Doc Spider again. Today we're going to do a sort of mega tackle haul of all the stuff I picked up over the winter in anticipation of the upcoming season. I had planned to do some snowboard content on the channel, but I wound up wrecking myself pretty good, so that never happened and ended up probably just sitting around buying more tackle because of it. So we're going to go through sort of in sections here. So I'll do one section on sort of minnow baits, blades, rubber, etc. So if there's one section that you want to skip to, I'll break it up into chapters so you can just go to whichever bit tickles your fancy there. So I'm going to start off with minnow baits and sort of crank baits. Some of these are brand new, some of these I picked up at a used tackle sale, and some are gifts. So starting off with a gift actually, my buddy gave this one to me for my birthday, which is also a winter thing. So Christmas, birthday, and the boredom of the off season can lead to a lot of tackle purchasing. This one here is a Salmo Whitefish in the 18 centimeter version. It's got a really nice sort of photo perch color pattern on it. Hooks look pretty good. These look like the red VMC, so they look sturdy enough for the job. Gonna try it out. I've got this in a 6-inch version as well in Fire Tiger, as well as an 18 in Fire Tiger. The 6-inch Fire Tiger I've caught some absolutely beautiful fish on. I've got probably one of my biggest muskie ever on it on Canada Day a couple years back, and an absolute pig of a walleye that I hope to show you guys out of the Ottawa River this past summer. So yeah, it's a great lure. Can be trolled, twitched. You can almost use it as a surface lure as well. Bump the top of the weeds. Just great overall minnow bait. So there's that one there. This one here, which is probably going to be the first bait that I throw for pike opener. This is the Lungen 22 Short SS, so it's a square bill. So a little rattling crank. I've got a feeling this is going to be just absolutely deadly. You'll notice as I go along that I have really a lot of perch pattern stuff. That's one of our main forage fishes around here. Perch, probably catfish, sucker. Not a lot of like whitefish and Cisco, like your big, deep, cold water stuff. We're mostly sort of shallow or warm water around here. So yeah, excited to get this out for pike opener. It's again a downsized bait that could be used for muskie, but pike and bass as well will hit that for sure. Next up in the crank baits is the Bill Lewis Super Trap. So this is sort of a great big old lipless crank. You can see lots of beads, makes a hell of a racket. One thing I am thinking of doing is taking these saltwater hooks off, just because if I do wind up having to cut hooks on a fish to get it released quickly, I don't want these in there because they won't rust out. So yeah, I've had a lot of success on lipless cranks for muskie and pike, and yeah, that's just another nice sort of like downsized bait that anything could hit, but really good for sort of those cold weather, early season muskie days. So this here is the Spro Pike Fighter. I don't think these are available in Canada right now. I ordered this off a European site. I'm pretty excited to try it out. It's got the double segmented body, so you can work it fairly slow, but it'll look like it's moving fast, if that makes sense. Got a little bit of a rattle to it, and that blunt nose is probably going to push water, so it might work a little bit different than your average sort of jointed minnow bait. So yeah, I'm looking forward to tossing this one on pike opener for sure. And the last one in the sort of minnow crankbait realm is this honkin' beast here. Tackle Industries Mega Shad, or Mag Shad. So I bought this to have sort of a really big trolling bait. I'm not going to be throwing this on pike opener. I was thinking, I mean, I like the paint job on it, but I was thinking of giving it a respray in plain black with maybe some glow stripes or polka dots. Because I plan to use this as a night fishing lure. That big profile, that really loud rattle, and that ability to sort of push a lot of water, it's going to make this pretty easy for fish to find in low light conditions. So yeah, I might be giving it a respray, not entirely sure yet. All right, so now we will move on to sort of spoons and spinners, your flashy stuff. First one up is a spoon here. So this is a Blue Fox Matrix. It's sort of a blacky purple silver with the glow stripes. I really like the glow in the UV stuff in low light or stained water. It might just be my confidence, but I have found that it does make a bit of a difference. I really do still like fishing with spoons. If you think back, like before musky fishing became musky fishing and its whole sort of industry unto itself, every big muskie was probably caught on a single blade spinner, a spoon, or sort of a simple plug. And they still bring in fish. Definitely works for pike, and I've had some big muskie. I haven't hooked a muskie on these yet, but I've had them come in. I know they definitely are interested anyway. So we've got that. As far as spinners go, I've got a few here. So these are sort of new to me. I got these at a used tackle shop. So this one here is just a bubblegum pink and black tandem Mepps Giant Killer. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the tandem hooks just because that's really a lot of work if the fish manages to take both sets. Yeah, great cold front bait when they're not going for your sort of like giant double tens and that kind of thing, and also good for pike and anything else that sort of swims. I'm sure walleye had hit it as well. That's why I like these sort of downsized spinners. I've got another one here, which is a Panther Martin 28. I like this one here because the blade is honestly almost the same size as the entire bait. It's going to put out a lot of flash, a lot of thump. And again, it's not so big that bass or walleye, as well as your pike and muskie, can't hit that. Next up, we've got a couple of new ones, and these are from a Canadian company here called Drop Tine Tackle. First one up is a spinner bait here. This is their growler. So I don't know if you can see the head here has almost like a bullet weight on top, and that rattle there as it moves through the water, that's your sort of growl. I believe this is a size 8 Colorado. I might be wrong on that. Anyway, just a nice, big, loud, flashy spinner bait, able to pull this over rocks in areas where you might not be able to get something with a treble or two on it. So nice for working your weed lines and that kind of thing. And then the last of the spinner section is also from Drop Tine Tackle. This is their non-typical, so it's a 10 mag blade in a black chrome, and then a 9 mag in a glow-in-the-dark, and the skirt also has glow-in-the-dark filaments. So this will be one that'll be thrown again, murky water, low light, night, and it can also be used just regular during the day as well. So yeah, just really, really nicely made. Excited to try these out, and it's really nice to support a Canadian company when you can. All right, so let's go to rubbery stuff. I'm not all that good fishing rubber, so I'm not going to say whether these are great or not, but it's something I want to practice and get better at, because I feel you should be sort of able to fish any bait if you want to call yourself like a good fisherman. So it's not a confidence bait for me for sure, but I do like it. So this here is the Bondi Royal Orba Junior. I had the regular size one, but the tail sort of tore off and I'm having a hard time getting it back on. This is a really neat bait because Bondi are usually known for jigging baits, and this one here you can sort of like bring it up and let it sort of dive and stuff, but it's sort of best on a straight retrieve. So you get this big curly tail out kicking up some action, and then these two blades at the back work almost like a double-bladed bucktail. I've had fish come in on on the bigger Royal Orbis. I'm excited to try this smaller size here. Feeling it's a great lure for sort of covering water fairly quickly as well. So that'll be nice. I've got that. I have as well. This would be in your same category as sort of your bulldogs and medusas and that sort of rubber here. This here is the Toothy Tough Alien Eel. And this one here is sort of a purple to silver to white fade, which looks kind of like channel cat. And I'm going with that color around here just because the Ottawa River is full of channel cat, and I'm sure they make a pretty big portion of a muskie diet. They're sort of big, fatty, and slow moving, so I don't see why they wouldn't be feeding on them heavily. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't seen any dietary studies for the fish here, but I imagine this is probably a pretty big staple in their diet. Next is sort of a rubber and jig combination. So this is a Dick Pearson Jig-a-Beast. So it's a almost flipping style jig that you'd see in bass fishing, only upsized quite a bit. It's got the bristle weed guard over the hook. It looks like an 8/0 hook and then a big paddle tail on the back. So you can swim this back with a straight retrieve, jig it off bottom, throw it into pockets. Very sort of versatile jigging lure for sure. And last in the plastics are these absurd things. So I've got here 12-inch sluggos. So I've got black here as well as bubblegum pink. And to rig these up, I have a 12/0 wide gap offset, so sort of like a Texas rigging hook, and then a 13/0 with the screw-in bait keeper, again to sort of Texas rig it. So a lot of the places I fish have very, very sort of thick matted weed cover. So basically Texas rig one of these, fire it in, and then you can sort of slither it through the weeds up over lily pads, and can get into a lot of places that baits with exposed hooks, be it treble or single, can't get into, and you can fish it almost totally weedlessly. So excited to try that. Next up, we've got a couple of dive and rise baits. So first up on the dive and rise, we have this here, which is the Sandcat LAT, which stands for live action tail, and that's this sort of like little grub tail. I believe that's what it stands for anyway. And it's a really nice color pattern. This is their black mamba here. And one of the things I really like is the bulging sort of cat's eye. Now I'm sure these are designed to catch fish, but lures are also made to catch the fishermen, and this one here is absolutely beautifully painted. So looking forward to tossing that, and yeah, that'll be another sort of pike opener because it's downsized and not just full on musky size bait. Next one up here is the Livingston Titan Junior. Now last year I did really well with the big Titan, which is sort of around, I think, 9 inches or so, and this one here is 6 inches. Now, one thing I will say is these sold out pretty quick, so I didn't really get the color I wanted. I was hoping for something either a pure black or something a little bit brighter, but I mean, this definitely going to do the job. It's more about the action, and again, I can always respray if I don't like the color. But yeah, it's another great sort of little sort of pull, pause, shimmy, very similar to Suick or a Harvey Javelin, any of those other sort of dive rise baits. Again, it's got the sort of little squirrely tail on the back there, just to give it a little bit more action. And these ones are cool because the smaller size, they sort of dart a little bit side to side and wobble as well. So now we're going to move over to some glide baits that I picked up. In Europe they call these jerk baits, so this is sort of my ultimate confidence bait here. This is the Salmo Slider. These are all from a used tackle sale that I hit up, the same place I got those couple of spinners. These are a really interesting bait. These are the sinking version. I was hoping to get the floating, but he didn't have any. So these are kind of neat because if you work them quick, you can keep them in the top sort of foot to foot and a half of the water column. But when you do let them fall, they have a really nice sort of wobble on the fall. So if you're fishing a weed line or a break line, you can sort of give it a little snap, let it fall, snap, let it fall, and sort of step it down the break. So I've got this sort of perch with gold fleck. I don't know if you can pick up the fleck in that. So again, another perch color. I got this one here, and I guess in Europe that'd be roach, but where I fish that looks a lot like a moon eye, which I know makes up a big portion of the forage base. And another one here, which is a black with gold scaling and then a chartreuse top. And these hooks here, I'm not entirely sure about. I'll probably change them out. They're a little bit on the small size for my liking. And lastly, in the sort of glide bait slash jerk bait category, we've got this Strike Pro Guppy downsize. Again, this is another one that has that sort of like underwater walk the dog action. Again, with the sort of little curly tail on it. And these ones here have absolutely gorgeous paint jobs. I've got the biggest model of this as well, which is probably a little bit bigger than the sliders that I just showed, but another one that I'm really anticipating throwing on pike opener. It's got fairly thin hooks, but probably won't change them out because I don't want to mess with the action on this one too much. All right, so the last category of lure we have are some top waters. So this is one picked up at that used tackle sale as well. And it's the same color pattern as that slider I showed. So it's got the chartreuse top, gold scales on the side, and then black bottom. This is the Salmo Mass Marauder here. And it's sort of a very exaggerated side to side walk the dog action. No rattles or anything in it, so it's a little bit more subtle. And again, this is one that can be used for bass, pike, and muskie. It's not ridiculously huge by muskie bait standards, so it can be used for pretty much anything. Sticking with walk the dog, this one here is the Nomura Nami. It's a 125, so it's a little bit smaller than the Mass Marauder, but it's got the rattles inside, so a little bit more commotion kicked up by this. I really like the pattern on this one here. It's almost like a translucent silver tiger with a little bit of orange on the bottom, so haven't seen that finish on a lot of stuff. Again, not too big, so it can be fished for bass as well. It's not a musky only bait. Speaking of bass, this next one is by a company called Mega Bass, although it might be getting outside of bass size. This is the Mega Dog X. It's 180 millimeters. I have the regular Mega Dog as well, which is 220, so about 10 inches or so. This one here has a really pronounced loud rattle to it. And I like this because it's one that you can fish in a little bit heavier chop, and I do prefer fishing top water with a little bit of chop just because I find it makes the fish a little less spooky, more likely to come up and investigate than those dead flat calm days where they can be sort of seen easily. So that's an interesting one for sure. And then lastly, as far as lures go, we've got this here, which is a Moldy's Hog Wobbler in their husky size. So I think they come in 3 sizes, and this is the middle size here. This is a jointed wake bait with a little prop at the back. I don't know if you guys are familiar with a company named Duo Realist. They do mostly more sort of finesse bass stuff, but they have a lure out called the Purge F, which is only 95 millimeters, so it's about like not even as big as the first section of this bait here, but I absolutely killed smallmouth on it. So when I saw this, I was thinking, hey, that looks basically like the Purge, only in a musky size. So grabbed this, and I've got a pretty good feeling about it. Again, with musky fishing, you'll never really know, maybe for a couple of seasons, whether or not a lure works, but I do like the look of this one for sure, and I've heard good things about it, so I went out and grabbed it, and hopefully it does work. So again, the last thing isn't a lure, but it's more of a gadget. So this here is the Accurite lightning detector. So I don't know if anybody still listens to AM radio at all, but if you do, whenever there's a storm coming in and there's lightning in the area, you can hear like a little hiss or crackle on your radio. And this works the same way. It's got like a little microphone, and it can pick up on the frequency of lightning. So it'll tell you when there's a strike. It'll also tell you how far off it is. So I'm not gonna like put my total faith in this, but when you're out on open water and you're waving like 8 or 9 feet of graphite above your head, it's probably a good idea to know where the lightning is and how much time you have to get your butt back to the launch before you get cooked. So pretty interested to try this out, just a little bit of peace of mind. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and if your season hasn't opened yet, hopefully it does soon, and when it does, tight lines to y'all.